Moving forward, I would like to move to our next panelist, Mr. KV Dipu from Bajaj Allianz. Hi, Mr. Dipu.
Hi, Amar. How are you?
I'm doing good. Sir, from a BFSI sector perspective, would like to understand, what you as an individual or your company as a big MNC or corporate have been using, what kind of emerging technologies you have been using this during this COVID time in order to provide a better customer experience, both online and offline, and what you're expecting from the voice tech ecosystem in terms of, rules, regulations, or features, which as a corporate, or as a end, as an end user or application buyer is concerned. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, Amar. I guess you asked the right question because the ultimate usage of technology is the benefit that you're able to provide to your end customers. So, to the first part of your question, what were the technologies that we used during COVID-19? Amar, we had actually started our digital journey much before COVID-19 set in. In fact, if you recollect, the 21-day lockdown was announced, with a notice of virtually 4 hours. So we embarked on a massive communication blitzkrieg at that time, and we highlighted the presence of various digital options available to our customers because contact centers were shut overnight. We have WhatsApp, we have our own AI-driven chatbot, we have a mobile app, we have a portal, amongst a host of other assets. What we had done, as I told you, when we embarked on this journey, was we had figured out the key drivers of traffic into the call center. And then we figured out end-to-end customer journeys, and we had built them on our digital assets. So, which meant when this lockdown happened, we could just seamlessly, switch our customers to our digital assets. We were able to do that very, very successfully. And this success, lies in the metrics. Even today, even though call centers are back in action, 80% of our servicing even today happens via these digital assets. The second biggest validation which has come is the fact that our complaints have fallen during this period by a whopping 90%. And I also mentioned the fact that we had picked up around 8 global awards, no less than 8 global awards for our various customer-facing technology deployments. If you look at our business, this is from a customer-facing perspective, wherein we replace the call center with various digital assets. If you look at the overall customer experience journey, the moment of truth in our business is claims, because that is the reason you buy insurance. You want insurers to come to your aid, during your toughest times. So here is where, we deploy technology to make life simple for our customers. For example, in travel insurance, and we deployed this way back nearly 3.5 years ago, we deployed blockchain to make the entire process hassle-free for our customers. Let's take an example. Let's take, hypothetically your own example. You're sitting in Bangalore and you want to fly to San Francisco. Let's say your flight is delayed. You are thinking about your next flight and all the booking arrangements you need to make all over again in your destination, be it your meetings, be it your hotel, be it your cab. The last thing on your mind is filing a claim with your insurance company, which you're eligible for because the flight is delayed. And even if you were to do so, the insurance company would ask you for some paperwork, copy of your passport, copy of your boarding pass, and they would ask you for some proof from the airline, maybe an email or a white mail, that the flight is delayed. So we said, let's do away with this friction. So we put ourselves in a position whereby by deploying blockchain, we had immutable proof that the flight was delayed. And then we made a fundamental change to the insurance value chain, which is that the customer no longer needed to notify us, saying that is eligible for a claim. We reached out to the customer and we said, that your flight is delayed. And while you're busy going about this entire engineering or, rebooking of your travel arrangements, you're eligible for this amount, and this amount has been transferred to your bank account. And for customers, it is a wow. So that's how we deployed blockchain to make the travel insurance claim process smooth. Similarly, on motor insurance, because motor is the biggest line of business in general insurance. Imagine again, you crash your car in the middle of nowhere, at an unearthly hour. You call up the insurance company, they have to locate the nearest surveyor. It'll take some time to reach there, assess your damage, file a report. Then the insurance company goes through the report. Then, the entire process starts. We said, let's make this seamless and fast. So we deployed AI and machine vision, and we empowered our customers to take photographs on their own without having to take help from a surveyor. They could take photographs, and send it to us using our mobile app. And by deploying AI and machine vision, we would get back with the assessment in less than 20 minutes. The moment the customer gives his consent, the money is transferred. So this process, which used to take days, was crunched into 30 minutes. So that's how we deployed state-of-the-art technology to make life simple for our customers. So I gave you examples from a customer perspective, from a customer servicing perspective, as well as a claims perspective. Now, coming to the usage of voice, we are big believers in voice. We were amongst the first players and when I say first players, not only in insurance, but amongst the first players across industries to integrate with Alexa and Google Assistant when they were launched in India. Our AI-driven chatbot was integrated, so which meant that customers could now have the option of using voice commands to get their searches or their commands executed. Similarly, when today customers walk into our branches, to the point that a lot of my distinguished co-panelists made on touchless UI and UX, because when customers walk in today, there is no handshake. You want to minimize paperwork. You want to maintain social distancing. So we have deployed barcodes. So all customers have to do is scan these barcodes, and then the various requests get fulfilled. So scan a barcode and get the insurance policy they delivered to your email ID. Scan a barcode and raise a request for let's say a refund or a claim. Now, voice, of course, is something, as I said, we believe in, and it does go forward. So there are 2-3 aspects we need to look at here. One is we need to ensure that to the extent possible, the customer starts to feel a human-like interaction. So the voice needs to mimic human interactions to the extent possible, because while we can digitize processes, we need to understand that core human skills like care and empathy cannot be automated, which is very important, especially in our industry. Second is, when we look at voice or when we look at any digital technology, in India, English tends to be the default language by choice. What we also need to understand is, that there's a huge customer base out there, which speaks, Indian languages. So, for example, when we came out with a mobile app for crop insurance customers, farmers in rural India, we came out with that app exclusively in Indian languages. It gave them access to us, access to the government, access to a host of information. And in fact, it won the Global EFMA Accenture Innovation and Insurance Award. So the other aspect in voice is also how do we make it multilingual? And when we say multilingual, it's not only in terms of availability in multiple options. It could even be, for example, that you speak in X language, but I get the output in Y language simultaneously, and vice versa. It's not always about waiting for a translation. So if we can focus on human-like interactions to give customers the touch and feel, and if we can go multilingual, I think we can amplify the reach of voice.
That's great. Moving forward, Amir, Mr. Dipu from Bajaj Allianz has given a nice insight from what he's expecting from BFSI sector, as a BFSI sector player itself. Just want to understand, one thing is pretty sure, like in India, we are looking at something in a multilingual translation of, our communications. Just want to understand how Tukuoro is looking to this, this area is, where we can have a multilingual communications, can be, we should put up in an automated mode itself. You have any solutions, or are you already having that feature in your platform? Would like to know more about.
Of course. So indeed, multilingual support is extremely important everywhere, but of course in India with more so many use cases and different languages used. Our solution can support different languages. Deployment is not complicated, as mentioned before, and we are able to match or to find the appropriate context to the speaker's language. So when they speak the same language of the context, it will work pretty much out of the box. Translating from one language to another, it's a different task. It is something that is handled eventually at the back end. It's not really related to the end user experience themselves, meaning he can speak the language that he wants, but yet again, if the system needs to translate the information, it can be done. It's in a background service of some sort. So to summarize, we are able to support different languages when we are excited from the different varieties of languages that are there. And in fact, we know this is a solution that could be very interesting in places like India.
That's great. Moving towards, to our next panelist from Intel, Srinidhi.
Hey, Amar.
Srinidhi, you have given a very nice intro and you have talked about a lot of emerging tech which is being used in across the sector, especially in a voice tech segment. Would like to because you guys are into tech solution provider to the entire ecosystem. Just want to understand from your side what next is going to be when it comes to voice technology ecosystem is concerned, and what could be the next big thing in the voice tech, and where you see Tukuoro playing a critical role in that ecosystem, because you guys are also a partner to them.
Yeah, thanks, Amar. So I think the Tukuoro is in the right place, but that's what I feel, because what I see nowadays is mostly, I mean, post the COVID, and in fact, even pre-COVID also, the Intel has realized that the voice is the future, especially the speech processing is the future, right? So in that perspective, I think the Tukuoro is in the right the platform right now. So from the Intel perspective, I think as I have already touched upon, so the Intel has various the solutions around the voice processing as well as the speech processing stuff is concerned, right? For example, I was talking about an OpenVINO, right? So this is a kind of the software capability where you can do a lot of machine learning and deep learning based deployment toolkit what Intel is offering today, and which is completely open source, right? So if you just visit the OpenVINO site, you can actually clearly see what and all the processing which you can do. So majorly the OpenVINO started with mostly the visual processing, and probably 1 to 1.5 years back. So we have already started working towards the mostly the audio speech processing as well, right? So we do have a kind of a solution from the ASR perspective. The ASR is automatic speech recognition, so which is again OpenVINO based on the OpenVINO based on the Kaldi, as well as the Kaldi is the one of the neural networks what is being used, along with we do have some of the reference solution based on deep speech as well. So right, so so Intel's some of these solutions is going to be upstreamed, and it is going to be open sourced, and so that the partners can work with Intel and then take these kind of solutions to the end customers, right? So ASR is one such solutions, and then that is based on OpenVINO, and then the supporting hardware. So from the Intel perspective is the GNA. So GNA is what we call it the Gaussian and Neural Accelerator, which is a highly optimized the processor. It is coming from Intel, and which does a lot of processing, especially related to the audio. So the OpenVINO is a kind of the deployment software where you can actually, if you have written an ASR kind of a, for example, an application kind of a microservice, you can deploy it either on a GNA, or you can deploy it on the core CPU itself, right? So it depends upon the requirements. You can actually deploy it on various hardware. The OpenVINO supports the CPU, GPU, and it can support the GNA hardware. It can support the HDDDL. It can support the various MOVIDS kind of a stick. So all those things, right? So the application writers, they need not have to worry about where this ultimately the deployment can happen. So based upon the requirements, you can actually deploy these kind of stuffs on the Intel the hardwares, right? So those that's one of the solutions. I was talking about the ASR is one such solution, and what I see is that the next two the corresponding to the speech processing stuff is the NLP, and I think Tukuoro is already in NLP kind of a solution, as well as the TTS. TTS is a text to speech, right? So So Intel has some solutions around this as well. So the TTS is the text to speech. So the OpenVINO inference engine also supports the TTS based on the Tacotron, which is the Google's the speech synthesis toolkit, right? So we have optimized such the Tacotron kind of a speech toolkit. So based on the forward Tacotron, what we call it as, plus the wave RNN could be the another the deep learning stuff, or it could be a kind of a Melgan kind of a stuff. So it's highly optimized, and then the inference timing is very less, right? So this is one solution around the TTS. Is I think it is going to come in future as well, right? So along with that NLP, so the NLP is the core of all of these the voice processing what we have talked about. I think Amir was talking about the some of the NLPs inherent features, for example entity extractions, or it could be a kind of a the feature extraction. So that is where your the deep learning algorithm needs to be applied to, right? For example, when the user or someone he talks about a complete sentence, or it could be a kind of a phrase, so the NLP kind of a service, it should basically extract the major entities of among that the entire sentence, and find out a derive out a complete a meaningful output from that, right? And then it has to give back to the user. So we do have certain solutions around, because the NLP there is the Intel has the Intel lab has a kind of an open source solution called as NLP Architect. So which you can that's again open source solution. So which is basically has various solutions around natural language processing. So this could be intent extraction, or it could be in the feature extraction, and there are some solutions towards like the goal oriented question and answering model, right? So it's a kind of a question and answering. You have a kind of a wiki, you feed the entire wiki page to this particular model, and then you start asking the questions based on that wiki, right? So the model will start answering based on that. So around all these the multiple solutions, that is ASR, TTS, it could be NLP solutions. So we are still, we are working on this by integrating all these audio pipelines, especially on the edge computing kind of a stuff, because nowadays the edge computing is becoming more and more prominent because of various factors. This could be the privacy factor, or it could be a latency factor when compared to the cloud. So the edge is something which is coming up nowadays, whether it could be in the banking domain, or it could be in the retail, or it could be in the healthcare or whatever, or even in that perspective education sector, right? So basically the computing needs to be done at the edge, or where the data is generated, that's very closer to the data. So that's where the Intel has also pitched in there, and we do have a various the solutions around for that. I think with Tukuoro, I think we should be able to address most of these the target end customers. So that's where I think Amar, so it's mostly the future definitely is speech. I think the last year or so it was mostly on the vision. I think post COVID, I think the speech is going to be the future.
Now, I just like to hold you back, Srinidhi. I'm going to have more questions because you come from a hardcore tech background. Mr. Dipu from Bajaj Allianz was talking about, he has used blockchain tech in the, product to provide a seamless, good customer experience and good customer service. Just want to understand, looking at the future technology, blockchain is one of the key, technology which the entire world is looking forward to. Just want to understand, where do you see, how we can make, a good marriage between the blockchain with the voice tech platform, and if you have any use case which you would like to, discuss in brief, where you have seen, using these two technologies simultaneously and for a better service, we're providing a better service, consumer service. And Srinidhi? Hello? Hello? Just give me a second. Give me a second.
Oh, we hear you, Modi.
Srinidhi is there? Srinidhi?
Hey, Amar, sorry. So I think there is some issue with my mic. Yeah.
Okay. No, it's fine now?
Yeah, now it looks good.
Yeah. So my question was, Dipu from Bajaj Allianz, our panelist, has talked about the use of they're using blockchain tech. I just want to understand, where do you see use of blockchain tech with the voice tech, and do you have any use case which you would like to discuss if you have any use in this domain itself, because blockchain is something just going to be a next big thing, and everybody is talking about it because of its own feature, because it's a really be a more secure on the safety side of it, and then transparency bit of it. Just want to understand from your side. And also my second question is, you're talking about hash computing. I have seen people also talking about moving from a cloud computing to fog computing. I just want to understand, do you see any value of moving or using a fog computing in this voice tech ecosystem?
Yes, the fog computing, it was a kind of, I mean, I think a few years ago it was a kind of a buzz. So I don't know about the fog computing stuff in today's world. It is mostly going towards edge computing. So the fog was a kind of a between cloud and between a cloud and the edge, right? So what I see is, I mean, at least Intel has realized that more than of a fog computing, I think the edge is what the future is. So because you are very close to the data where it is getting generated, so you will do a lot of processing in the edge itself before even you transmit this out to the network. So yeah, so I think that's where the Intel has a lot of investment towards, even from the software perspective as well as from the hardware perspective. The edge is mostly the future, at least from the IoT perspective. I think edge is currently the focus point of view, right? So even the workload consolidation is another stuff. So the more and more you do and then consolidate towards on a single the CPU is what is mostly the need, because today the customer doesn't want to spend on multiple hardwares to do multiple things. For example, the facial recognition, they can do it on one machine, and then you can do a kind of a gender and gender and gender detection, for example. This could be on a different machine, and then you could do some kind of another analytics on a different machines, right? So all this kind of stuff together, what I see is can be consolidated onto a single box, for example. So at the end, so from the cost perspective and from the maintenance point of view, and even that's what is making more and more sense. So I think Intel is mostly focusing towards that. So we do have a lot of synergy towards the workload consolidation, and also on the edge computing. So this is where the output of this edge computing, for example, the OpenVINO, right? So I was talking about it. So you can do a lot of stuffs on the edge. So this is the output of the edge computing, what I would say, right? So yeah, so the fog, I'm not sure. I think that is maybe the future, maybe 1 or 2 years or even 2-3 years later. But edge is what I see. I mean, at least from my point of view, I think edge is what is currently being used across. Yeah.
And also my first question was about use of blockchain in voice tech.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, there are various use cases. So I think Dipu, I mean, do you have a specific the kind of an use case around this the blockchain, so which you think is making more sense?
So Srinidhi, I did not talk about blockchain from a voice perspective.
Okay.
Essentially, I spoke about blockchain because Amar asked this question around what have we done
Okay.
for customers.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I spoke
I'm
about the
just
fact that we had leveraged machine vision, blockchain, and a host of other technologies, to make our customer-facing processes digital and easy for customers. And then voice is one of the suite of technologies.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm just trying to explore, a synergy between the blockchain and the voice. I know whether these two tech, tech structure or infrastructure can come together and create a different, ball game altogether for most of the businesses.
I
If
think,
you have,
I think what I see is this voice technology. There are a lot challenges, especially so because when if you consider India, so there are a lot of languages, right? There are different accents and there are different vocabularies, right? To support all these things, it itself is going to be a big challenge, because a particular model is going to be trained, for example, for an English language, or I mean. For example, using the American accent, so it definitely will not work if you deploy it on the same model on an Indian stuff, right? So it needs to be retrained. The model needs to be retrained. It needs to be fine-tuned to make it work on Indian accents. Even in Indian accents, geographically, the state-wise, the people will talk a different languages. So that itself is a different challenge altogether, right? So. Uh, that's where the main pain point what I see here is going to be a kind of what I would say the data set. So the how do you create a data set, right? So that is a kind of stuff where it is exactly specific to a particular use case. For example, the banking is one such use case, right? So if you want to really apply a kind of a chatbot kind of the use case where the customers will come in the front kiosk, and then he will start discussing some of the transaction related queries with a digital human, for example, right? Or a virtual avatar, what we call it today, right? So yeah, so this is where I mean the language is plays an important role, and that's where the NLP comes into picture, right? So as Amir was talking in the first half of the meeting or whatever, right? So the entity extraction so is plays a critical important role. So what all entities being extracted from the speech process, I mean from the language or from the voice the customer is asking, based on that you have to derive out a fruitful response and throw this back to the user, right? So that kind of a processing, NLP is the heart, I would say. So there are a lot of solutions around. BERT could be the BERT could be one of the solutions. So for this for an NLP kind of stuff, and there are entity extraction related models. There are different models are available today. So it's a matter that you need to find these particular models, retrain these models based on the use case, fine tune this model, and then deploy it on the field, right? So that's the challenging point, and also that's the pain point, I would say.
thank you so much. Now, moving to our next panelist, I would like to have Navratan Kataria sir from Nasscom. Navratan Kataria from Nasscom.
Yes, tell me,
So
Amar, what's your question?
Yeah, sir. Now looking at we are sitting in a Silicon Valley of India, Silicon City of India, actually Bangalore, where we have it's a land of startups, innovations. I just want to understand, because you come from an a startup ecosystem, sir, especially from IoT and AI domain. Just want to understand what kind of new innovative technologies or startups you have experienced in this COVID time, and have you come across any startup who is working on voice tech, or if you can share some stories from the Nasscom side.
Yeah, I love storytelling, frankly speaking. We actually started with, this big demand of ventilators, and everybody was scouting for, are there startups in the country who can make ventilators? So we took a good number of potential candidates for ventilator manufacturing, as well as people who were already there to write up to Niti Aayog. And demonstrated not only ventilators, but some startups in the telemedicine, for example, some for remote monitoring, pre and post hospitalization. Some were even looking at what can be done for uh, the vaccine genome kind of development using AI, those kind of situations. So we took a variety of things, and in fact, the first month was spent in more like a haphazard method of seeing what the startup or the innovators can do. And lots of people had this doubt, what the startup can do for the 1.3 billion or the world global in general. And we had this issue about with talking to the government as well, saying that do not worry about the scaling. We have, good number of corporates who can scale it up. First, have the proof of concept, prototype, clinical validations done, and then some of them will be very successful cases who the people on this panel, some of them will take forward and uh, do technical mentoring to business mentoring and manufacturing support. So this was the start of it. We eventually found that in the hurry that we had, the pressure from all different sides, we had a large number of AI related startups trying to pivot into COVID related, which was good for their business as well as good for what they say is giving back to the society. In many cases, we realized that people who had like 25 years of experience, they said, I'm moving out of the corporate, or let me have 6 months of a sabbatical to help the situation in the country because I have some ideas in my mind. So we also actually tried mixing, because see, at the end of it, the end user, which is in this case was more of a healthcare to begin with, was not interested in even learning what AI means. He said, give me the solution. I don't care what is inside the box. So we had a lot of intermediaries, people like Srinidhi who were experts into the technology side, people like John who would give a lot of guidance, people like Dipu who would give the real use cases to them of this is exactly what my problems are. All these stakeholders to come together and say, look, these are the areas of innovation. And I'm not saying that these were left only to the startups. There were a lot of these corporates we brought together with the startups in what we call as a co-creation program, in which we said, if we can marry these startups to the corporates, which we've been in any case doing, but at a very high speed of churning out ideas, this is where I think the results were happening. We did a few projects like Thane, which is a suburb of Mumbai. They had this huge accelerated graph of COVID positive cases. And they said, can we have mass level pre-screening of people? We cannot have the usual medically proven things. Can something be done in advance? Now, what the problem was that if you talk to any of these large healthcare corporates, they'll say, look, I have liability suits facing me, so I am not going to touch these. What we did was, as startups, have a risk appetite, and as the users or the adopters, they didn't have liability issues with the startups. They said, look, we are not giving you a complete diagnostics. We're giving you some directions that there's a possibility, a high chance, and this is what AI does as well, right? A high probability of, yes, you may have this problem. And this is where the story started. Of course, after the lockdown started moving out, we had these issues from the manufacturing companies on how can I produce the same numbers from, say, 2/3 of the people? How can I save them from the pandemic, as well as create efficiency in my operations? So the use cases moved from pure healthcare to manufacturing to the the usual routine industries. And what happened, all these technologies, whether it's a blockchain in insurance or whether it's voice enabled something, they all came together. And I must say that startups did really spend a lot of time rethinking about what they could do, not purely in terms of where the business is, which is of course drives it, but a good number of people came up and said, look, I will give these ideas to some of my colleagues, colleagues in the startup world, that they may be my competitors, but I don't mind sitting with my competitors and chatting together to see how collectively we can answer a solution. And one biggest problem was that while at a very large scale, a startup does only a minute portion of the solution. We need to integrate all these minute solutions of different startups together, stitch them together, that it becomes an end-to-end. And this is not an easy task. Startups have a focus on a very small area, but he's a master in that. But we wanted lots of masters put together to give out a very good, reasonably well accepted product for the market. And that is where we generally, so for example, in this case, if Amir has to probably get some use cases from Dipu, get the guidance from John, or have all the technical capabilities available with Intel, we will try to connect the dots. And yes, Mr. Goel, who was the first one? Thank you, Mr. Goel. I just forgot you. I thought you've gone out for a coffee. But all these gentlemen, this is our reason to be here. If Amir at the end of it can help, take help from all these and help them back, and of course get them to write some checks as well at the end of it, this is where we will like to help Amir and all these corporates sitting around and consultants and the experts, where the whole ecosystem can play well to bring out the problems that we are facing in COVID, and maybe post-COVID also. Definitely, we all know the norm will change. What we see today will probably, this is not only very temporarily being asked for, but these will become use cases of the future. And that's why it's very important for us to talk to people like Amir to get them connected to all the other stakeholders in the ecosystem. Too long, Amar.
Thank you so much, sir. Moving back to our, Ms. Kavita, just want to understand from consulate point of view, where do you think, a startup like a Tukuoro is going to, how they're going to add value in terms of the Indian ecosystems are concerned, and what is your plan, to help such kind of innovative startups from Israel who are looking to, who are looking at India as their second best market. Just want to understand, what's next on your agenda, if possible. Ms. Kavita.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for that question. But I would like to, reiterate what Mr. Srinidhi mentioned. Okay, it is indeed a challenge because, because of multilinguistic, and India, it's difficult from the language point of view, and everyone has their mother tongue accent. Okay, even if it's English, they carry a mother tongue influence, and there's even for the right translation, you need to have a lot of observation made, and to get into the right way of interpretation is indeed a challenge. So, but at the same time, in this pandemic situation, I believe this technology will add value, maybe in some industries like, healthcare, where the words are not, not in sentence. I'm sure, like, booking a tickets, or even it could be in some of the apartment, where you find a lot of educated crowd, and there's a lot of value add in construction industry, in healthcare, and also in hospitality industry. Like you can look into some of the hotels and some orders that is being placed in restaurants. And I'm sure you will have a niche crowd who can, I'm sure, more or less meet up to the standard and their communication. I think to start with, we can look at even some of the retail segment also, where, they just have to place order, and instead of in the kiosk, or you have a device there and you just mention about the products, it's not too much of English and few words. So I think in some of these sectors, it can still value add.
Thank you so much, Kavita ji. Now we are coming to the end of our panel discussion. Before we end, just would like to request Amir and other panelists to summarize one by one, and in terms of their expectation, and the next step in voice tech, or is concerned for their business. So we'll start with our uh, Rupinder Goel ji, if he is there. Rupinder Goel ji.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I was on mute and talking.
No, sir. Sir, I said, like, we are just coming to an end of our panel discussion. Just want to summarize from your side, a small summary, like what's your expectation in terms of voice tech is concerned, and where you think, this going to be in the next couple of years, and what are the, possibilities for a startup like a Tukuoro, who are looking India as the second big market.
Yeah. So one of the things, all the panelists and what we learned today is really exciting, and I see the future where we are versus where we'll be going. And companies like Tukuoro, I mean, they're doing an excellent. They're playing in the front foot, and they have an advantage. Actually, they don't carry any baggage or any brown stuff. They're all green, so they can be as flexible, as innovative, and they don't need to worry about legacy. So they have all the pros, all the things, and they're working on a technology or a solution which is a key niche and key requirement of the future. And I personally believe, as some of those panelists have said, like, it has to become as real as human possible. It should not be a machine. So that's my, future expectation and all. And with artificial intelligence, machine learning, so as we are talking, and if there have been a voice bot sitting in the back, it will not recognize, Amardeep, is it you or is it that bot? That's where the future,
Yes.
the value will come like. So that's my personal 2 cents takeaway. And I think we are on the great trajectory and the path. Companies like Tukuoro and in that line. And one more little request to all present here, especially Tukuoro kind of people. I think in today's world in technology, nobody can work alone. So I think it's a good idea to have collaborative platform or join hands so you can quickly reach home. It should not be all built in home, or we can do everything possible. So not to
Yes.
eat whole cake, I think we should share it. And especially with
Yes.
APIs and new technologies, what we can plug play. I think the ecosystem approach and a platform approach will be the best to go forward. And thanks.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words. Now moving back to our Mr. Dipu from Bajaj Allianz, would like to have your 2 cents.
Samar, we already shared the two expectations in terms of making it as human-like as possible, and of course the ability to be multilingual. As a closing comment, one expectation from any tech, and especially from voice tech, will be that the bot should be able to answer all kinds of queries. See, the beauty of a human being is that human beings can go beyond FAQs, whereas a lot of bots struggle. Moment the queries are exceptional queries. So if the voice bot can answer exceptional queries, it just makes sure that the customer experience is a wow. Because NPS studies show that first call resolution leads to an NPS of 96. The moment you have even one break and it leads to two experiences, or let's say two interactions, it drops deeply from 96 to 65. So end-to-end resolution on the first call will be crucial to ensure seamless customer experience.
Thank you so much, sir. Thanks for your closing remarks. Moving back to Amir, if you can please.
Sure. Sure. So, yeah, thanks, Amardeep. It was first, it was great to see all the great panelists, and for me to have people, executive people from the industry and from standardization, and it's really kind of the entire ecosystem here in one panel. I believe that there is some gap between how people imagine voice interface and to the actual need and actual practice. Sometimes people envision that like in futuristic movies like Odyssey 2001 or the movie Hair, where it's all kind of voices everywhere and you can really speak to it and almost telepathic way. In fact, we as human beings need something pretty simple, and we just need it to work, and we need it to be available for us and secure. And this is what we try to apply to solve the here and now needs of the people. and to do it fast. In terms of expectation, I'm really excited from the opportunity to act in India, and I welcome everyone to reach out to me and to start evaluating technologies to see how we can maybe help some of the use cases, and of course grow together towards a safer and easier way for people to interact. Back to you, Amardeep. Amardeep, can you hear me?
Yeah, excellent, Amir. You said very well.
Okay.
Yeah. Can I have Mr. John?
Just 4 to 5 thoughts. I'm here. I'm here. 4 to 5 thoughts in closing. A marvelous panel, and thank you for the opportunity. 3 or 4 thoughts to leave us with. Number 1 is that voice is in its earliest days. We have to keep that in mind. We are in the first of many phases, number of phases of voice's development. Second, voice is the zero interface. It's going to happen. It's coming our way. We need to be listening to it. Third, 2 major things we need to be addressing. The first, and was spoken to very well a moment ago, the inclusivity across all languages, making voice available for everyone. The next is in an understanding context. That is, so we can begin moving from command and query and question to a regular interactive dialogue. All that is underway. But more importantly is something demonstrated in this call, and that's the partnerships between companies, the partnerships with Tukuoro and the consulate, the partnerships on standards, all of us working together to create a world of voice that is worthy of user trust. That's the critical thing we must achieve, making voice worthy of user trust. It's great to be working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. I would like to move to next speaker, our Navratan Kataria sir from Nasscom, to give his 2 cents to summarize.
The first question I have, usually it is not polite enough to ask the moderator, the Amar, why do you say second best market?
Okay.
So I thought in India, we have the biggest and the best market available today. Amir, you have probably nowhere in the world. We are not even counting China, for example. China may not be inviting you at all. But I think today India is the biggest market potential for you. Or I would say any startup. Every startup has the dream of being a unicorn, and India has that potential. Give us an opportunity to help you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Moving towards our person from Intel. Thank you so much, sir, for your 2 cents. Srinidhi, I would like to have 2 cents from you. Quick.
Yeah, thanks so much. So thanks for this opportunity to talk about our Intel technologies on this kind of a platform. And I think overall, I echo Mr. Navratan's point of view. It is just a matter that we need to connect all these dots. I would say, I think Tukuoro plays a major role there. So we are there with you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Srinidhi. Now, last but not the least, 2 cents from Ms. Kavita from Israel Consulate.
Thank you, everyone. I should only say thanks for this opportunity, and it's indeed a great meeting, all of you, and a great technology to explore. And I'm sure together we can make things possible. So thank you once again.
So thank you all. Thanks to all panelists. Thanks to Team Tukuoro, and also major thanks to team from Nasscom and Israel Consulate for making this webinar happen. Would take some few questions if it's possible.
Yeah, Amar.
Yep.
Lingaraju here.
Yeah, Lingaraju sir, please go on, sir.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Lingaraju. professor in MS Ramaya Institute of Technology, Bangalore. I am very happy to be here. I heard, as an academic perspective is concerned, I wanted to communicate something. I don't know how we can collaborate also. From past 4-5 years, I am working with the students' projects. Like for dumb and deaf people, gesture recognition from gesture to text, text to speech. So the person who don't know even gesture language, nowadays, if you want to communicate with them, only the person who knows the gesture language can communicate. Now, without knowing that language also, you speak in normal language, whatever the local language is there, that will be converted as a gesture, so that that information is communicated to him. So he will also gesture back whatever he wanted to tell, that will come in the local language, so that I can understand what he is trying to tell. So this proof of concept from past 4-5 years, I have developed in the form of students project. So I was really happy to be a part of this conversation. And one of my research student also, he is doing PhD, he is doing in this area only. So just I wanted to inform, let me explore what is possible to take my research in the higher dimension. That was my intention. Just I communicated.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Dr.
It has
Neeraj.
accidentally I came to this because of Amar, and it is more relevant to me.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks for your appreciation.
Thank you.
We can take more questions offline. I have already put up our email IDs. People can reach out to us. Actually, we are running, ahead of, we are already late by 8 minutes. If any queries and questions are there from audience, they can reach out to us directly. I have put up my email ID, amardeep@cxoherald.com. And, we will respond you back. So thanks everyone once again for making this webinar a successful webinar. We have taken a small initiative to bring innovative technologies, startups to India, and also Indian startups to abroad. Let's come together, make it happen, make a very secured and healthy ecosystem for our upcoming generation. That's the entire agenda of such exercises. Thanks again from my side. See you very soon, guys. Looking
Thank
forward
you.
to have
Thank
some
you.
more engagement from you.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good
And
day.
Thank you.
I've also shared my email.
Hosting, and thank
So
you, everybody.
please be in touch.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Have a safe and nice day, guys.
Thank you so much, sir. We'll stay in touch.